Red lights pulsed throughout the space station's control room. Commander Zikara raised his long, scaled head from the sensor display. His yellow eyes widened in alarm. The message flashing on his screen chilled his blood. Warning, a human warship has entered the sector. Zikara stared in disbelief. It couldn't be. Humans had been extinct for 300 years. The hegemony had ensured their annihilation. Every human colony had been razed to lifeless ash, sir, asked his second officer, Vera, a blue-skinned female. What are your orders? Zikara didn't respond immediately. He double-checked the scans. There it was, a colossal ship. Dark and angular, studded with weapons along its hull. Larger than any Federation battleship. Contact Admiral Vices, Zikara ordered, his voice shaky. Tell her we have a situation. Far away, deep in the starless void, Captain Jake. Morrison stood firm on his ship's bridge. The Defiance, a testament to humanity's brilliance, was their final legacy, crafted secretly for decades. He was humanity's last chance. Morrison, tall with gray hair and piercing blue eyes, wore a plain blue uniform with captain's stripes. His hands, scarred from years of toil, rested by his side. He had dedicated his life to this day. Status report, Morrison commanded. All systems nominal, sir, replied Commander Lisa Grant, his sharp-minded second, a short brown, hair-framed, determined eyes. Quantum engines are stable and running at full capacity, good Morrison said, gazing at the starfield ahead. After 300 years, we're going home. Silence hung on the bridge, broken only by the soft of computers. Everyone knew the gravity of their mission. They were the descendants of those who had fled Earth before the hegemony's onslaught. Lieutenant Amy Barnes manned the comms. In her mid-20s, blonde hair tied in a ponytail, her hands moved swiftly over controls. Sir, Federation signals. Incoming, she informed. They know we're here, Orson nodded. Open a channel to all frequencies. Amy's fingers danced expertly. Channel open, sir. Morrison drew a deep breath. What he was about to say would reshape the galaxy. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance. We have returned. On the Federation station, Zikara heard the broadcast. His blood turned to ice. The voice was calm, yet commanding. Unmistakably human. Impossible, whispered Vera. They're extinct. Apparently not, Zikara muttered. He had been a young soldier during humanity's fall. The veterans had warned him humans fought like cornered beasts. Sir Admiral Vices is on, comes another officer announced. Admiral Vices appeared on screen, an elegant ethereal with pale blue skin and large silver eyes, a species revered for wisdom and peace. Commander Zikara, she began, I received your alert. Are you certain it's human? Yes, Admiral. The ship broadcasts human codes, and we've heard their captain. Vices paused, contemplative. This changes everything. Observe them, but do not engage. I'm dispatching a diplomatic envoy. Meanwhile, deep within the Defiance, Chief Engineer Ryan Clark oversaw the engine room where the quantum cores thrummed with unmatched power. A broad, rugged man, his uniform bore oil stains and his hands were hardened by labor. How are the engines, Chief? Asked Pete, his young assistant. Running perfect, Ryan grinned proudly. These beauties could outrun anything out there. The aliens have no clue what we can do. Ryan had helped design them. While others relied on outdated fusion drives, humans had mastered quantum tech faster, deadlier, unmatched. Back on the bridge, Morrison reviewed the tactical display. Federation ships approached, a mix of familiar and unknown species. Contacts, sir, Amy reported. The ethereals seek dialogue. The Vorthic are requesting military support. And she hesitated. The hegemony is mobilizing. Morrison's jaw tightened. The hegemony, Earth's destroyers, humanity's would-be executioners. He had waited his life for this. Let them come, Morrison murmured. It's time they learned you can't kill an idea, and the idea of human freedom lives. Lisa checked the weapons systems. Weapons and shields ready, Captain. Full power. Morrison gave a firm nod. He knew this was inevitable. Defiance was more. Then a ship, it was a declaration. Humanity endured. The ship's AI, a serene female voice, spoke. The crew called her Liberty. Captain, detecting large fleet movements across the sector, many species are reacting. Understood, Liberty, Morrison replied. Record everything. History is watching. He surveyed his crew. These were humanity's finest, trained. For this mission, their entire lives, just as their ancestors had hoped, they had died dreaming of this day. All hands, this is the captain. Morrison's voice echoed through the ship's comm system. Today, we return to the galaxy that tried to erase us. Today, we remind them that humanity does not die so easily. Today, we start reclaiming our place among the stars. The Defiance surged ahead through the void, quantum engines blazing trails of blue energy. After 3 centuries in hiding, humanity was back, and they were prepared for war. Admiral Corvash stood tall within the command center of his colossal flagship. An insectoid being, his frame was coated in black, armor-like plates. His multiple 4 arms worked rapidly across control consoles. Red, multifaceted eyes revealed nothing. Yet within, an old sensation stirred fear. Play the transmission again, Corvash ordered. A human voice filled the chamber. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance. We have returned. Corvash's mandibles clicked together sharply. He had witnessed Earth's annihilation firsthand, had watched the human homeworld engulfed in flame and ruin. Every colony, every vessel, destroyed. By all rights, no human should still live. There shouldn't be any humans left, sir, said his aide, a smaller insectoid named Vex. How is this possible? We eliminated them. Apparently not all. Corvash's voice grated like metal scraping stone. Alert every hegemony fleet. We have unfinished business. Aboard the Federation diplomatic vessel Harmony, Ambassador Luriel prepared herself for the most critical encounter of her life. She was ethereal, her species renowned for wisdom and linguistic diplomacy. In her dimly lit quarters, her pale blue skin glowed faintly. Luriel had long studied humanity's history, their wars, their art, their relentless spirit. She had mourned their loss. Now, impossibly, she might meet one in the flesh. Ambassador, her assistant's voice came through. Comes, we are nearing the human ship. Luriel exhaled deeply. Open a channel. The main screen came alive with the image of the human ship's bridge. A stern woman with cropped brown hair appeared, clad in a blue uniform marked with commander stripes. I am Commander Lisa Grant of the UES Defiance, she said. You requested dialogue? I am Ambassador Luriel of the Federation. Luriel responded, We believed your species extinct. How did you endure? Lisa's expression was firm, yet lacked hostility. Some of us escaped before Earth's fall. Since then we've been preparing. For 300 years? Luriel asked, Where have you hidden? In the dark spaces between stars, Lisa replied. We built ships, trained soldiers, learned all we could about our enemies. Luriel shivered slightly. You've been plotting vengeance. We've been ensuring survival, Lisa corrected. The hegemony tried to wipe us out. We made sure that would never happen again. Deep within the Defiance, Dr. Helen Walsh focused on her work. In the ship's advanced laboratory, she was a slender woman with gray hair and sharp green eyes. Around her, countless screens displayed streams of ship data. Helen was the Defiance's chief scientist, dedicating 40 years to creating revolutionary technologies. This ship wasn't just bigger than others, it was fundamentally unique. How are the adaptive shields performing? Asked her assistant, a young man named Tom. Better than projected, Helen replied with a grin. The system evolves. With every attack? Each enemy strike makes the shield stronger against that weapon type. Tom frowned. How is that even possible? Quantum mechanics, Helen explained. Our shields exist in multiple states simultaneously. When attacked, they collapse into the form best suited to repel that assault. Think of it like a shield that morphs into exactly what you need in the moment.
Wow.
She had also engineered their weapons. While other species relied on basic energy blasts, humans had crafted antimatter lances, weapons capable of piercing any known shield or armor. Back on the bridge, Captain Morrison monitored the tactical display as more Federation ships encircled them. Dozens of alien species appeared, some familiar from historical records, others entirely new. "Sir," called Lieutenant Amy Barnes from Cums, "Admiral Vices is requesting direct communication." Morrison gave a nod. "Put her on." The main screen lit up with the poised figure of Admiral Vices, the ethereal with her pale blue complexion and vast silver eyes. She regarded Morrison with a measured gaze. "Captain Morrison," she began, "I am Admiral Vices of the Federation Fleet. We need to have a conversation." "I'm listening," Morrison replied. "The hegemony is mobilizing everything. They have Vices warned. They're assembling their full might. Why return now?" Morrison paused, his voice steady. "We're prepared." "Prepared for what?" Vices asked. "To finish what they started," Morrison said. 3 centuries ago, they sought our extinction. They failed. Now it's our move." Admiral Vices' expression grew tense. "Captain, the hegemony commands thousands of ships. You have one." Morrison smiled, though it lacked joy. "Quality over quantity, Admiral." Meanwhile, in the engine room, Chief Engineer Ryan Clark made precise adjustments to the quantum cores. The engines thrummed with a power that old technologies could never achieve. Ryan, Pete, his assistant, asked hesitantly, "Are we really going to fight the entire hegemony fleet?" Ryan wiped grease from his hands. "Pete, this ship was built for one reason, to remind the galaxy that humans never quit. But there are so many of them," Pete muttered. "Numbers aren't everything," Ryan said firmly. "What matters is who wants it more. And believe me, nobody wants this more than us." The Defiance's quantum engines allowed maneuvers that defied physics, could reverse, accelerate, or vanish, and reappear across space in an instant. Aboard the Federation flagship, Admiral Vices gathered her diverse officers. They wore anxious faces despite their many species. "What's our intelligence on human combat abilities?" she asked. Captain Norg, a towering, bear-like alien, consulted his datapad. "Limited. Their last conflict was 300 years ago. Ship uses tech we can't comprehend. Should we assist them?" Commander Krill, a sleek, fish-like alien, Vices pondered. "The Federation stayed silent when Earth was destroyed. Maybe it's time we make amends." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, hegemony fleets converged on the human ship. Admiral Corvash had called in debts from many species. His forces swelled by the hour. "Sir," Vex reported, "we now have 200 ships en route to the target." "Excellent." Corvash growled. "This time no humans will survive." But Corvash had no idea what awaited him. The Defiance was more than a warship. It was the embodiment of 300 years of human grief, resilience, and brilliance. Every piece of it forged by those who had lost everything yet never surrendered. On board, Morrison spoke to his crew over the ship-wide comms. "All hands, this is your captain. Soon we'll face the enemy that annihilated our home. They believe one ship can't challenge their might. They're wrong." He gazed into the starfield. "We are Earth's children, the last free humans. Today, we show them what happens when they try to kill an idea. Today, we prove that humanity never yields." Cheers erupted across the ship. They had trained their entire lives for this, ready to fight, ready to win or die trying. The Defiance advanced, blue quantum flames streaking behind. The Federation fleet followed, finally prepared to support humanity. Ahead loomed the hegemony, confident in their sheer numbers. But they had never encountered a ship like the Defiance, or humans with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Near the gas giant Hepto 7, the void grew crowded. Admiral Corvash's hegemony fleet spread like a steel storm across the dark. 200 warships, vast and varied, destroyers, cruisers, and colossal Devastator-class battleships, the very kind that had incinerated human worlds. Corvash stood on his command deck, his forearms manipulating multiple stations. His red compound eyes tracked the tactical map. A single tiny dot marked the human vessel. It looked so small compared to his formidable fleet. all ships. Report ready, Vex, his aide announced. Not yet, Corvash said. He wanted to savor this. Open a channel to the human ship. I want words with them before they die. The main screen displayed the Defiance's bridge. Captain Morrison stood, his piercing blue eyes locked on Corvash. I remember you, Morrison said coldly. You were there at Earth. Corvash's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Yes, I watched your pitiful world burn. I saw your cities turn to glass. How does it feel to know you'll share their fate? Morrison's expression remained stone. It feels like justice is finally here. Justice. Corvash let out a laugh, sharp and metallic. You have one ship. I have 200. Where is your justice now? You're about to see, Morrison answered, and the screen cut. Out on the Defiance's bridge, Morrison faced his crew. All stations, status, he ordered. Weapons ready, reported Major Tony Rivera from the weapons console. Stocky, black-haired, with hands steady as stone, Tony had trained his whole life for this. Shields at maximum, Lisa Grant added. All defense systems online. Engineering reports all systems optimal, called Amy Barnes from Comes. Morrison nodded. Liberty, start recording. If we don't make it, the galaxy should know what happened here. The ship's AI responded calmly, recording initiated. Captain, all crew are at battle stations. The mass of enemy ships ahead. Today we fight for every human that ever lived. We fight for Earth. We fight for the future. All weapons fire at will. The Defiance lunged forward like a predator. Its quantum engines twisted it through space, dodging with impossible precision. The ship spun, darted, and vanished, making it a phantom amid the stars. Hegemony weapons fired wildly, missing as the human vessel danced through their salvos. Tony Rivera's hands flew over the controls. Antimatter lances to full power. Beams of pure energy burst forth, brighter than stars, hotter than stellar cores. The first blast struck a hegemony destroyer. The ship evaporated in a flash of blinding light. Direct hit, Tony shouted. Target destroyed. Corvash watched in disbelief. His sensors showed the human ship moving faster than anything on record. It appears, fires those cursed weapons, then disappears. How are they moving like that? Vex demanded. I don't know, Corvash snarled. All ships, focus fire on that target. Hundreds of energy blasts and missiles swarmed toward the Defiance, but the ship seemed to predict every strike, weaving through death like it was born for this. In the Defiance's lab, Dr. Helen Walsh observed her adaptive shields in action. Every enemy shot made the system smarter, morphing the shield to counter the next assault. Incredible, she whispered to her assistant. Tom, the shields are actually getting stronger after every hit. How's that possible? Tom asked, as the ship shook from another blast. The quantum field is adapting, Helen explained, scanning her instruments. Each strike teaches the system how to resist better. We're becoming immune to their weapons. On the bridge, Morrison watched the Defiance slicing through enemy ranks. The ship moved like it was alive, striking, vanishing, then hitting again before the enemy could react, Sir Amy Barnes reported. I'm detecting Federation ships on long-range sensors. Admiral Vices is bringing reinforcements. Morrison gave a grim smile. Tell her to stay back. We've got this. But even as he said it, he knew this was the hardest fight of his life. The hegemony was adapting, firing in patterns to box. The Defiance and Lieutenant Commander Steve Murphy led his Marines through the corridors. A big man, face and hands scarred by war, Steve carried weapons aliens had never seen before. Sir, asked Kate, one of his Marines, are we boarding? Enemy ships. Steve checked his rifle. If we get the chance. These bugs need to learn what happens when you fight humans. The Defiance's weapons roared again. Another hegemony ship exploded, then another. Tony Rivera operated his console like an artist, every shot precise. Yet for every ship destroyed, 10 more closed in. Did the hegemony surrounding us? Like a storm of metal, Lisa reported. Shields at 60%, Captain. We're taking heavy hits. Morrison clenched his teeth. Ryan, I need more power. In engineering, Ryan Clark pushed the quantum cores beyond their limits. The engines howled with energy unmatched in the galaxy. "Pete," Ryan shouted. "A reroute. Life support. Power to the shields." "That's risky, sir," Pete warned. "Everything we're doing is risky." "Do it." The shields brightened. Weapons fired faster, but the enemy kept coming. Corvash watched another ship die. The humans were killing his fleet slowly, but numbers would prevail. "Sir," an officer called. "The Federation fleet is nearing." Corvash's eyes burned. "Fire on them too. Anyone aiding humans is our enemy." The battle expanded. Federation ships joined in, their outdated weapons adding to the chaos but barely scratching hegemony armor. Aboard the Defiance, Morrison saw time slipping away. His ship was strong, but not strong enough for the entire hegemony fleet. Amy called, "A massive energy reading incoming. Something big's coming." Morrison's blood chilled. On his display, a new contact emerged, colossal beyond belief. A hegemony super dreadnought. "A planet killer," Captain Lisa said softly. "That's the World Breaker. It can crack a moon." Morrison stared at it, a monstrous warship, bristling with weapons, carrying enough missiles to erase a star system. On open channels, Corvash broadcast, "All ships witness humanity's end again." The World Breaker's main cannon charged, gathering energy like a newborn star. One shot and nothing would remain.
Ow.
Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew stood firm, fear in their eyes, but unwavering. They had come so far, shown the galaxy humanity couldn't be crushed, but this might be the end. "Sir," Tony Rivera said quietly, "orders." Morrison thought of Earth, of the dead, of children on the generation ships never to see their home. "We came to send a message," Morrison said. "Let's make sure they hear it." The Defiance turned toward the World Breaker. One lone ship, daring to face a planet killer. Last free humans in the galaxy, refusing to yield even to certain death. The Federation fleet watched in awe. These humans bravest in the galaxy, or simply mad, maybe both. The World Breaker's gun glowed like a miniature sun, energy swirling at its tip, enough to split a planet. Corvash watched from his flagship, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. This time humanity would truly be extinct. But Captain Morrison had other plans. Ryan Morrison said into his communication device, "I need everything the engines can give us. Everything. Engineering." Ryan Clark's hands raced over the controls. "Got it, Captain?" "Pete, disconnect all safeties. We're going full power." "Sir, that could trigger a quantum cascade," Pete warned. "Then we better make it count," Ryan said. The Defiance's engines roared, surpassing every limit ever set. The ship launched forward like a missile, faster than anything in the galaxy, aimed directly at the World Breaker's charging cannon. On the Hegemony super dreadnought, alarms blared, "Sir." An officer yelled, "The human vessel is on a collision course." "Impossible," the captain scoffed. "They'd have to be insane." Clearly, he didn't understand humans. Morrison gripped his chair as the Defiance surged forward. "Tony, target their main gun. Hit it with everything." Tony Rivera's grim smile returned. "With pleasure, sir." No, the Defiance's antimatter lances fired at point-blank range, piercing the World Breaker's weapon just as it was ready to discharge. The explosion was apocalyptic. The super dreadnought's main cannon detonated, creating a chain reaction. Planet-killing energy collapsed inward. The mighty ship ripped itself apart in a radiant storm. In seconds, the Hegemony's deadliest weapon became drifting debris. The shockwave tossed the Defiance like a toy. Sparks flew on the bridge as systems screamed in protest. "Damage report," Morrison shouted. "Shields at 20%, Lisa Grant called. "We've lost 2 weapon arrays and main sensors." But they were alive, and the World Breaker was gone. Panic spread through the Hegemony fleet. The invincible ship, destroyed by a single human vessel. Officers who had felt confident were now silent, staring at their screens. "Impossible," Corvash muttered. "That ship was unsinkable." "Sir," Vex said, voice trembling. "We've lost 37 ships. The humans have only lost shield strength." Corvash's eyes blazed with rage. All ships ramming. Speed. Destroy that vessel, whatever it takes. But the fleet's unity was crumbling. Captains hesitated. Some fled without orders. The human ship seemed unstoppable. On the Federation command vessel, Admiral Vices watched in wonder, her pale blue skin glowing faintly. "How are they doing this?" asked her tactical officer, Captain Norg. "I don't know," Vices admitted, "but we're not sitting this out." All ships engaged the hegemony fleet. The Federation vessels surged forward. Their tech was older, their weapons weaker, but they had numbers. Beams and missiles flooded the battlefield. Aboard the Defiance, Lieutenant Commander Steve Murphy got his chance. A damaged hegemony cruiser drifted close to their ship, its hull cracked and bleeding air. Captain Steve radioed, requesting permission to board that cruiser. Morrison eyed the crippled enemy ship, still dangerous, but barely functional. Permission granted. Show them what human Marines can do. Steve led 20 Marines through the airlocks onto the alien vessel. Hegemony soldiers inside weren't prepared for what came next. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for war. Their weapons were advanced, their armor unyielding, and their will indomitable. The Marines swept through the ship like a storm. "Contact front," shouted Kate Wilson, as insectoid hegemony troops appeared. The aliens fired, but human shields absorbed the blasts. Human weapons fired back. Aliens fell in droves. Steve's team pushed forward, clearing room after room, deck by deck. The hegemony had never faced humans in close combat before, and it showed. Every human fought with a ferocity unmatched. Each one seemed to equal 10 alien soldiers. "Sir," one Marine reported, "we've reached their bridge." Steve peered into the command center. Alien officers cowered behind consoles. Weapons forgotten. "Surrender," Steve ordered, speaking in the hegemony's language. The aliens stared in terror. These humans weren't like the ones they crushed centuries ago. These humans were stronger, colder, utterly fearless. The alien captain dropped his weapon. "We surrender." Back on the Defiance, communications specialist Kelly Jordan worked her console feverishly. Quick and sharp, she was the best at intercepting signals. "Captain," she called. "I'm intercepting hegemony transmissions. They're discussing something called Final Protocol." Morrison's stomach sank. "What kind of protocol?" Kelly listened, face growing pale. "Sir Corvash is ordering a retreat, but he's prepping a weapon. Something aimed at the Federation capital." Morrison's eyes widened. Corvash wasn't conceding. He was planning mass murder. The Federation capital housed 50 billion citizens from dozens of species. How long until the weapon fires? Kelly's fingers raced. 12 minutes, sir." Morrison studied the tactical map. The Federation capital was too far. Even with the Defiance's speed, they couldn't stop the weapon in time. Unless... Ryan Morrison called to engineering. "Can we make a controlled quantum explosion?" Ryan answered instantly. "Yes, sir. But it'll destroy the ship." Morrison nodded, having expected this. "Prepare the quantum cores for overload." Lisa Grant turned from her console, eyes fixed on Morrison. "What are you planning?" Morrison stood from his chair, calm and resolute. "The only thing we can do. If we overload the cores next to Corvash's weapon, we'll destroy it before it fires." Bridge fell silent. Everyone understood Morrison's meaning. They would have to sacrifice themselves to save the Federation capital. "Sir," Tony Rivera said quietly, "there has to be another way." "There isn't," Morrison replied. "But that's okay. Came to send a message. This will be the loudest message of all." Morrison activated the ship's communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. In a few minutes, we'll save 50 billion innocent lives. Our families would be proud." Across the galaxy, species watched the battle. Enemies, allies. Neutrals all saw the same thing. One small human ship surrounded, choosing to sacrifice itself. "Set course for Admiral Corvash's flagship," Morrison ordered. Maximum speed. The Defiance turned toward the enemy fleet. Its quantum engines burned brighter than ever before. The ship hurtled toward destiny, carrying the hopes and dreams of a people who refused to surrender. Behind them, the Federation fleet followed, They couldn't save the human ship, but they could honor its sacrifice by fighting on. Ahead waited Admiral Corvash and his monstrous weapon. In minutes, one of them would be gone forever. Morrison looked around his bridge one final time. These people had given everything for this moment. They were the best of humanity. For Earth, Morrison whispered. For Earth, his crew echoed. Admiral Corvash watched his super weapon charge with grim pleasure. The planet killer, his final gambit, was hidden deep inside his flagship. If he couldn't defeat the humans directly, he'd ensure the galaxy remembered why the hegemony was feared. Sir, Vex reported. Weapon ready to fire in 8 minutes. Good, Corvash said. Target the Federation capital. Billion deaths will remind the galaxy not to defy us. But then, on his tactical display, a single contact blazed toward his ship. The human vessel moved impossibly fast, its quantum engines burning like blue suns. Sir, an officer shouted. The human ship is closing at impossible speed. Corvash's red compound eyes narrowed on the screen.
Ow! Weapons! Fire! Destroy it now!
Energy beams filled space, but the Defiance moved like it was alive. Twisted, darted, evaded, closing the gap to Corvash's ship.
On the
bridge alarms screamed as systems buckled. Chief Navigator Paul Anderson worked furiously at his console. Quiet man, steady hands, flawless aim. Captain Paul called, I have a firing solution. We can hit their weapon directly. Morrison nodded. Time to target. 3 minutes, sir? Morrison glanced around his bridge one last time. His crew worked with quiet resolve. Death was certain, but their faces held no fear, only pride. Ryan Morrison called to engineering. Status on the quantum overload. Chief Engineer Ryan Ryan's voice came through the comms. Cores are ready, Captain. Just give the word, and we'll light up the galaxy like never before. In engineering, Ryan and Pete made final adjustments. Quantum cores pulsed with unstable power, one command away from birthing a star. Ryan Pete said quietly, My family's on Earth Station 7. You think they'll ever know what we did here? Ryan gave a sad smile. Pete, the whole galaxy will know. We'll make sure of it. Elsewhere, Dr. Helen Walsh worked in her lab recording every detail. Her monitors captured everything. Weapons, data, shield responses, quantum fluctuations. Tom, she said to her assistant, upload all of it to the Federation databanks. Every breakthrough, every secret. Make sure they get our shield tech. Tom's hands flew across the console. But why, Doctor? Because someone has to continue the work, Helen answered. The galaxy shouldn't lose humanity's greatest gifts. On the bridge, Kelly Jordan sent one last transmission to the Federation fleet. Her hands trembled, but she completed. Message sent, Captain, she reported. I included every vulnerability we discovered in the hegemony's forces. Morrison smiled. Good work, Kelly. That might just save them all. The Defiance closed the distance to Corvash's ship. Beams of deadly energy streaked past, but miraculously, each missed by mere meters. Sir, Lisa Grant called. We're almost in range. Morrison stood from his chair. All hands, brace for impact. It's been an honor serving with you. Throughout the ship, 800 crew members stood at their stations. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, all descendants of Earth's lost children, all ready to give their lives. Steve Murphy and his Marines had returned from the cruiser boarding. They stood armed and steady. Sir Steve radioed, enemy. Cruisers destroyed. Marines ready for final orders. Stand by, Steve, Morrison replied. It's going to get rough. On Corvash's flagship, the Admiral finally understood. His mandibles clacked with dread. They're going to ram us, he muttered. Stop them. All ships. Shield the flagship. But it was far too late. Defiance cut through the enemy ranks like a burning spear. Its antimatter lances fired one last time, punching deep into Corvash's vessel. Now, Ryan. Morrison ordered. In the engine room, Ryan Clark hit the last sequence for humanity. The quantum cores detonated, unleashing a cascade of raw energy. The blast was brighter than any sun, a detonation mightier than a supernova. Both ships vanished. In the inferno, Corvash's final thought was bitter realization. Humans weren't weak because they loved. Love made them invincible. The explosion annihilated the flagship, erasing the planet-killer weapon. 50 billion lives were saved by 800 human souls. The blast wave shattered dozens of hegemony ships. Survivors fled in panic, their fleet shattered, their admiral gone. Silence returned to space. On the Federation command ship, Admiral Vissis watched the fading energy cloud, silver eyes wet with tears. "Record it all," she ordered softly. "The galaxy must remember this." 6 months later, Ambassador Luriel stood before the rebuilt Federation Council. Hundreds of species delegates listened as she read from the Defiance's final message. "We didn't return for revenge," Morrison's voice echoed through the chamber. "We came to prove some things are worth dying for. The galaxy deserves saving, even if we're not here to see it." The Council voted unanimously to ratify the Morrison Accords, a new charter ensuring the rights of all species. Never again would genocide be tolerated? But Luriel knew a secret the Council didn't. Deep in the Defiance's transmitted data, she'd found something more. Blueprints, schematics, designs for new ships, new weapons, and new hope. Far beyond known space, in the void between the stars, lights began to shine. The generation ships that had hidden for centuries stirred, beginning to build anew. The Defiance had carried more than weapons. It carried a future. The Defiance had carried more than shields. It had carried the future. Children who'd never stepped foot on a planet worked side by side with their parents and grandparents. Together, they built new ships, inspired by the Defiance's design. They trained for the day humanity would return to reclaim its place among. The stars' exile was not yet over, but neither was their story. The galaxy had learned a brutal lesson. You can destroy a world, burn a civilization, scatter its people across the void, but you cannot kill an idea. And the idea of human freedom would never die. In the wreckage of the Great Battle, Federation salvage teams recovered something remarkable, a shard of hull plating from the Defiance. Somehow intact after the quantum blast, etched into the metal were 3 simple words: "Earth remembers everything." The fragment was placed in a grand museum on the Federation capital.
Oh.
Beings from every corner of the galaxy came to see it. They stood before those words and remembered the ship that had saved them all. Some visitors were former enemies who had learned respect for humanity's courage. Others were allies, inspired by the sacrifice of 800 souls. But all who read the message understood one thing. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as guardians. They had proven that the strongest weapon in the universe wasn't antimatter, wasn't quantum fire. It was the willingness to die for others. And somewhere, in the dark between the stars, that lesson was being passed to a new generation. Children learned how to build ships, to fight battles, to explore the unknown. They studied the history of Earth, the meaning of sacrifice. But most importantly, they learned that to be human meant to never give up hope. The hegemony was shattered. The Federation was reborn. And humanity, scattered but unbowed, was coming home. The Defiance was gone, but its message echoed through the ages, in a galaxy of wonders and terrors. One truth remained: when evil threatens the innocent, when darkness covers the stars, when all hope seems lost, humanity will be there, because that's what humans do. They protect those who cannot protect themselves. They stand guard against the night. They light candles in the dark and refuse to let them go out. The galaxy was forever changed, because 800 humans chose to make it so. And in the end, that was enough.